There has been some pretty major coin news. If you've been following coin news, King Charles is replacing Queen Elizabeth on all $1 coins, with the plan to replace her on all future coins. You have to feel a bit bad for old Charlie, you know. He was in line for the throne for so long, only to become king at a time of card payments. You'd probably only pull out a $1 coin to unlock a shopping trolley. I think that's why this news has kind of gone a bit under the radar. Whereas just the announcement that the Queen would be replaced on the $5 note caused the culture war to flare up. Liberal leader Peter Dutton said, and I'm going to quote him directly here, that it was another attack on our systems, our societies, and our institutions. I mean, I of course just had to see what all the fuss was about. But getting my hands on one of the $1 coins was a much harder feat than I was expecting. The first place I thought to look was Coles and Woolworths. I thought that if I went in when it wasn't busy, I could just ask them to look for a coin of the king on it and trade in my coin of the queen. The woman at Woolworths was completely baffled by my request, and all the staff there had said they'd never seen one before. When I went to Coles, the lady at the checkout suspiciously knew exactly what I was asking her, as if this was a request she got every week. No? Alright. Thank you. But she couldn't find one either. I was kind of expecting this, so I brought $20 cash to trade in at the bank for $21 coins. I was basically going to do a loot box.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
No problem.
It's $20 worth of $1 coins, so I have 20 shots to get this right. I can already tell that either end is not going to be it because they're both pretty old and faded looking. It's probably going to be a new coin. So really I have 18 shots. And with that, I was off on my mission for a King Charles $1 coin. The lady at the bank had assured me that there was no guarantee that there would be one in the pack, and that she didn't know when the coins were minted. I'm getting excited whenever I see a shiny coin, but it's not looking good. I was approaching the second half of the pack, and I was beginning to lose hope. As the 16th coin came and went, I was confronting the very real possibility that I wouldn't get one. And then... Oh my god, look at him! He's so weird looking. Charles 3, 2023. Actually looking at the coin, something seems just like quite wrong about it. It just looks like a piece of foreign currency. You might notice that compared to his mother, he's not wearing a crown, but that's actually the norm with male monarchs. Because the crown on the Queen's head is actually a tiara. Male monarchs don't usually wear tiaras. You can see this half penny I have from 1943 with King George on it. No tiara. It is true that King Charles has been chosen to be depicted without a crown in some official portraits. I think in an effort to seem less pompous in a time where equality and democracy are both quite fashionable. Although I'm not quite sure how well it's working out for him.
To bring down inflation, to ease the cost of living for families.
I understand what Peter Dutton was trying to do when he said that replacing the Queen on the $5 note with an Indigenous symbol was going to be an attack on our society. He was just trying to inflame the culture war, which is something that's beginning to define his style of politics.
And they're sick of being told that we should be ashamed to be Australians.
Try and get people angry and scared, and then try and channel that anxiety into the current government. But there's something I think Peter Dutton is forgetting about Australian culture. And it's actually something that I forgot when I made my video about the Australian flag. I really put in the effort to try and capture all the different complex emotions that people feel towards the Australian flag. And I was expecting pushback, but there was one comment that completely blindsided me. It was this: mate, who cares? Oh, I mean, I was expecting hate, but that comment was so much more brutal than anything I was prepared for. Just absolutely heartbreaking. That emotion, and the emotion that I didn't account for, was apathy. Apathy is an emotion that runs through so much of Australian culture, both for good and bad. It's our indifference towards authority figures that lets us talk to politicians like they're ordinary people.
Sure, let's just move back from there.
Which can be the envy of other countries. especially countries like America, where they treat their presidents like god kings.
And to bless our president, Donald Trump.
And we have quite an apathetic feeling towards the monarchy. When asked if they thought that ditching the Queen and having an Australian head of state would make a difference, 56% of Australians said it wouldn't. It's not that we hate the king, we just don't care about him. This is quite different to the situation in the UK, where the monarch has an outsized influence on politics and also costs the taxpayer quite a bit of money. You can argue about the specifics of that, but trying to talk about the politics and the finances of the monarch just falls a little bit flat in Australia. In truth, the monarch has very little bearing on day-to-day Australian life. So then if it doesn't really matter if we are ruled by a king or a queen, why did I spend a whole day looking for a coin with the king's face in it? Why was I so hurt by some random YouTube commenter? And why am I now making a video ostensibly about that one comment? Well, it's because I'm unemployed. If you haven't guessed from my quite lengthy video about the Australian flag, I am the kind of person that really cares about and pays attention to symbols. I mean, and that's what the monarch is. If you can't make economic or political arguments against the monarch, then you have to make a cultural one. The monarch is a symbol of Australia. And in my personal opinion, I think we'd be better off if we replaced the monarch and the flag with something new and something more Australian. But I will concede that none of that, really matters. We have real issues in this country, and I imagine that the monarchy and the flag are pretty low on the list of real issues. Which is probably why no politician has wanted to touch the subject of the monarchy with a 10-foot pole. We did have a referendum in 1999, but that was pretty resoundingly rejected. Every Prime Minister who doesn't openly love the monarchy has said that they're going to wait until after the Queen's died before touching the subject. In 2022, the government even created the Minister for the Republic, who would be in charge of the promotion and transition into an Australian Republic. But after all that, and maybe you missed this news, the Queen died. Since then, there's been very little talk of an Australian Republic. There was some minor discussion from the Greens, but they did so literally on the day the Queen died. Even most Republicans thought that this was in incredibly poor taste. So I wouldn't say that Australia is against becoming a republic, it's just that we don't like thinking about it. For an example, on Australia Day in 2015, monarchist Prime Minister Tony Abbott did something that was truly out of touch. I like the way it was described in this op-ed. He had made the bizarre decision to award the nation's highest honour to Prince Philip, an ageing aristocrat most remembered in this country for asking an Indigenous Australian, "Do you still throw spears at each other?" It's genuinely hard for me to summarise how stupid this decision was. People within his own party and conservative journalists and Rupert Murdoch himself all agreed that this was an idiotic decision. So apathy, at least in relation to the monarchy, is almost like a positive term. It's probably a good thing that most Australians don't care about some overseas ruler and his creepy brother and his scandalous son. But that same apathy has a dark side. That apathy can be weaponized. There has been exactly one referendum since the failed Republic vote in 1999. Held in 2023, the Voice was a proposed Indigenous advisory body to Parliament that would help it consult on issues that uniquely affect Indigenous Australians. It needed to be put to a referendum so that it could be enshrined in the Constitution, and thus immune to a change in government. There was one small hurdle though. A very small percentage of the Australian population is actually Indigenous. So this vote wouldn't affect, or at least directly affect, 98% of Australians. Despite that fact, everyone was legally required to vote, just as in every Australian election. So you had a population of people already predisposed to political disaffection, voting on an issue that probably wouldn't affect them. All the while, you had the No campaign actively encouraging people to switch off. They started using the slogan,
"If you don't know, vote no."
If you don't know, vote no.
This voice is risky, divisive and permanent. So if you don't know, vote no.
if you don't know, vote no. With misinformation rife in an incredibly toxic campaign, that's exactly what people did. Switch off. Just 90 minutes after the polls closed, the vote was called in favour of no. It was such a resounding defeat that people were saying that not just the Voice was dead, but referendums into anything were dead. That reconciliation itself was dead. In this new era of political apathy, it's difficult to imagine any widespread political change. Anyway, that's the coin. It's pretty cool, I guess. Also, how many years do you think King Charles has left? It might be a good idea to get one of these coins while you still can. Goodbye.